Good afternoon. Today, I want to help you save a life, maybe your own life, by helping you identify emotional abuse. So let me ask you a question. You can die from emotional abuse?
You want us to answer?
Sure.
Yes.
Ah.
No.
Does everybody agree with him?
Yes.
Anybody don't agree?
I don't know, I'm on the fence.
Tell me your thoughts.
It may cause you to do something, but I don't think that it was okay. So yes, it may cause you to kill yourself if you feel like you're nothing. So yes, I guess we agree.
Physical abuse is worse than emotional abuse. That's why so many people focus on physical abuse.
Don't agree.
Don't
No,
agree.
Don't agree.
Don't agree?
Mm-mm.
Why don't y'all agree?
Because physical abuse can go away in a few weeks. Emotional abuse never goes away.
But then why do so many people focus on physical abuse rather than emotional abuse?
Because
They
it's
can
more
see
visual.
it.
Their
Right.
emotions
More
come
visible.
out.
Right. Physical
They
abuse is
express their emotions.
it's there. You can see. You
Yeah.
can see when.
You can
You can see a black eye,
Yes.
a broken hand,
Yeah, but a lot of people don't know when they're being
emotionally
emotionally
abused.
abused.
Correct.
A lot of
And
men.
that's why today we're going to learn about emotional abuse and how to identify it and communicate it with other people so that they'll know that, hey, this might not be a safe situation. So again, we're talking about emotional abuse. By the end of this class, these are the 3 things that you should be able to do. So, emotional abuse is, abuse is. Anybody? Abuse in general, physical, sexual, whatever abuse. What is abuse?
Harm and ill intentions.
Psychological warfare.
That's all we got? Well, I have 2 words for you. Invasion and captivity. Invasion of captivity of what? Person?
Yeah. And it's the person, the
Your mind,
mind,
Mhm.
right?
Body.
body,
Mhm.
spiritual. Yeah, it can be
Yeah,
abusive.
yeah.
Mhm.
So it's invasion and captivity of the mind, of the body, personal space,
Space.
and of the mind. Repeated invasions of abuse can lead to what?
Repeated.
Suicide.
Yeah.
Death, which is death.
Mm-hmm.
Psychological disability.
Problems.
So do you agree with this? And do you think that this
Yeah.
is equivalent across the board of abuse?
Yeah.
Somebody getting sexually abused can lose their
Mhm.
integrity? Now, let's compare physical versus emotional abuse. So, as we discussed earlier, what are some signs of physical abuse?
Bruises, damaged joints,
Mhm.
black eyes.
Mhm. So I think I heard somebody else say that, the body tends to heal faster, than emotional abuse. Physical abuse is also seen as being more aggressive compared to emotional abuse, as it seems to come off as passive, and that's probably why a lot of people don't focus on it as much. Additionally, with physical abuse, it promotes more fear and scaredness, and the victims feel more threatened than emotional abuse. Do y'all agree with that?
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
as we've mentioned over and over, physical abuse, you see the actual physical signs versus emotional abuse. Those signs are invisible unless you like really know a person and you start saying like, wait, you're not the same as you were when we first met or a few even weeks ago. You're a little different. And like I said previously, it's less aggressive as compared to physical abuse.
I never thought of religious abuse.
Never thought of religious abuse? And as Bradley said, injuries could take much longer to heal than physical abuse because it could take many years of therapy. That bone probably good and healed by now, but
Strong.
that mentality, that mental stability is now shot, so to speak. So now we're going to talk about what emotional abuse. Emotional abuse has similar definitions. You'll hear a lot of them. What are some other ones that you hear about when you think of emotional abuse?
Manipulation.
Mm-hmm.
It's already about to have a kind of
Again, I like to call it psychological warfare, cause
Mm-hmm.
all you gotta do is control their mind,
Mm-hmm.
tear it down,
Mm-hmm.
take away their motivation.
Mm-hmm. Yep. And so all these words pretty much are the same thing. You'll hear a lot of people throw out verbal abuse, mental abuse, emotional abuse, but they're all pretty much the same thing. Some people separate them with a fine line definition, with looking at how the results of it. So one may be more extreme than the other, but overall it's pretty much all the same. Here's some examples of emotional abuse. Is there some up there that you can think of that's not up there?
Pretty much, yeah.
Okay, let's talk about what emotional abuse is not. So, emotional abuse is not what? Based off the conversation that we've already come this far, what is emotional abuse not? Sentence sounded a little funny.
Well, it's not physical.
Mm-hmm.
Now you can visual either. Sometimes you can't see.
Yeah.
In other words,
It's not
Can't see the
visual.
wound.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, here's the three that I have up there. It's not sexual.
Touching.
It's not touching. It's not grabbing and groping. It's none of that.
Same thing. Visual.
yeah, cause emotional. Everybody think it's.
Exactly.
And if it is that, then that's sexual assault. Correct.
True. But it
That's
falls
what
up
it
into the physical realm.
Okay.
So let's talk about what emotional abuse is. Based off what we have already talked about, what are some words that we can use to describe what emotional abuse is?
Name calling. Keeping someone down.
Breaking it down.
So here are some of the words that I've come up with to say this is what it is. It's manipulating, controlling, belittling, and humiliating. Somebody yelling at you in the middle of a party just because
Yeah.
you forgot to bring a soda. It's very humiliating.
You can't get this right.
So let's define what emotional abuse is. How would you define it? I said define. How would you define it?
Anything that makes you psychologically feel lesser of a person, unable to complete tasks.
Things that make you doubt yourself.
Yes, exactly. Self-doubt.
Makes you feel socially awkward.
Mhm.
Don't want to be around people who want to. It's always your fault.
Isolating,
Yep.
self-blame,
So always your fault. Never good enough.
Mm-hmm.
low self-esteem.
Yeah.
Been there.
Great. So it's non-physical words and actions that lead to power and control over another person. As we said, being unsure of oneself, isolation, exactly what we said, and mental distress. Y'all got this already. I can just finish in the class now, right?
Skip a page. Nah, ma'am, you can't give it. Learning.
So emotional abuse can cause extreme damage to the victim's self-esteem and making them feel like they're crazy,
Mm-hmm.
worthless, hopeless. And like it's even like it's their fault. Like it's not me, it's you. So let's talk about the effects of emotional abuse. Emotional abuse can lead to what? We've had this discussion.
Yeah. A lot of self.
Mental breakdown.
Yeah.
So you
Depression.
Suicide,
With depression, suicide,
Mm-hmm.
Anxiety.
Change your behavior, anger.
anger. They might turn into abuser to someone else.
Right.
Yeah.
To abuse it.
Yeah.
Yes.
About to say that. 'Cause
Exactly.
Mhm.
And so here are some of the things that I came up
it's a
with.
good one, Marissa.
And guilt and shame and self-blame can lead to low self-esteem along with a loss of self-identity and self-worth can all play a role in together to just make them feel like they deserve whatever they're, getting. Emotional abuse can also lead to, as we've just said, depression, suicide, but did you know that it can also lead to PTSD?
Post-traumatic stress. They like to call it PTS now.
Post-traumatic stress disorder, for those who don't know what PTSD is. There was a study done of college women that suffered emotional abuse, and they seem to have more depression than somebody with physical abuse. Does that make sense to y'all?
Yes.
Would y'all agree with that study?
My mom went through it.
Okay, well, let's talk about how do we get to emotional abuse? Like, what makes a person emotionally abuse another person?
Even if them themselves were abused at one point in time.
Previous abuse.
Mhm.
What else?
Well, they don't believe in themselves, so they gotta take it out on somebody else.
Oh.
So they make the other person.
Mm-hmm.
When it's really
Jealousy.
normally bullies do
Jealousy.
that.
Person
Yes.
like
That's
want to be
good.
in control.
That's it.
Yeah.
Power and control,
Control.
is like the main reason for any abuse. They want to have power and control, sexual assault, physical, everything is they just want to have power and control over another person.
Sounds like
Uh-huh.
religion.
And these are some other ones that can lead to emotional abuse. Do you know what dehumanization is?
Making you feel less than a human being.
Almost,
No.
but you're right there. You're right there. But pretty much is for that person to view another person as not being human. And so,
Like a thing.
Like
Correct.
You're
My thing.
You're my thing.
Like,
correct.
Mhm.
Correct. So we're going to talk about emotional abuse and power. Power and control is the basis, as we said, of abuse. And it is seen more than gender, education, and sexual orientation. Like that is the thing that leads to abuse. Somebody just wants power and control over another person. And so this just shows what it looks like. Now we're going to talk about dehumanization. As we said, it makes another person look at it as if they're not another person. They don't see people as equals or as humans. It allows disconnection. And sometimes it occurs before the abuse or after the abuse. In other words, it's I look at you non-human to abuse you, but sometimes I have to look at it after the fact, be like, oh, my actions weren't that bad because they're not, because they are my thing, because they are my wife, they are my child, I'm allowed to do this. And many say that that is the reason why abuse occurs over power and control. Me personally, I can see, you know, both aspects. It kind of depends on the situation. What are your thoughts?
They go hand in hand, I think.
Now let's go to communication, the third one. Communication leads to a lot of confusion. And so when you don't know how to communicate, you know, I can only see emotional abuse because now it's just like you don't know how to get your thoughts across. You're unable to get the right words, and then you get frustrated, and now you just blow it up on somebody.
80% of us do not know how to communicate.
I agree. So,
Yes,
In the-
Bradley.
You're saying I don't?
Except for Bradley.
so the inability to communicate feelings, thoughts, and desires, to express their emotions, and they lash out. And if you have not thought about it, communication always also includes listening.
Yeah.
And a lot of people don't listen to understand what the words that are coming out. They listen to respond, and you only heard a little bit of what is being said, and now you just through the roof. So communication plays a big role in it. Can you answer that?
There's no reason to emotionally abuse somebody.
That depends.
So how can understanding, you know, dehumanization, lack of communication, how can that help you point out, you know, this person is emotionally abusing somebody? How can you just say, oh, that person is seeking power and control, they're probably verbally abusing this person? How can you use that knowledge to say, hey, that person is verbally abusing somebody, he's probably abusive, or she's probably abusive?
Well,
Understanding those would give understanding those signs
See the
would be able to give you understanding of what the signs to look for if a person is being
Behavior.
emotionally abused. Because sometimes, a lot of the times we might miss it. There are little traits or little actions that the person might exhibit that if we do not know what it is that are the reasons why, then we will not be able to identify possible emotional abuse.
As you explain it, that keeps like governments popping in my head, political offices and stuff. How they emotionally abuse people in order to control them. So like you say.
Anybody else? Thoughts? Well, yes, I do agree with that. That once you understand what it is and why people do it, it makes it that much easier to say, hey, you're not doing real good with that communication over there. Yeah, we might need to fix that, because how you're coming off, even to me, I can imagine how you're coming off to somebody, you know, that you're supposed to love. So yes, it does help. So now we're gonna go to an activity. You get to choose which activity you would like to do. You can either role play, or you can do a think, pair, share. And think, pair, share is you'll take a few minutes and think about a situation that has occurred in your life that you've seen either personally or to someone else. And then you get with, you know, each other. And then once y'all finish with that, then y'all share it. Share what you've learned.
And then role play,
Can I role play?
identify emotional abuse or
Yes.
inability to
Somebody come up here and, you know, identify emotional abuse. And
Wait, you want somebody to come up there and emotionally abuse somebody?
Can I emotionally abuse Bradley?
if y'all want to do the role,
Explain it more.
yes.
Role play.
So yes, either emotionally abused or not emotionally abused, and we have to identify whether it's just, you know, because sometimes oftentimes it's not necessarily emotional abuse unless
I
it
get-
hits those three characteristics: the invasion of body, space, and that's what makes it abuse.
Okay.
So this will help you to be able to identify abuse versus somebody just joking around. Like, man, you stupid. That's not necessarily emotional abuse. You see what I'm saying? And so to be able to identify those things in different situations.
Who wants to role play?
Well, it sounds like a role play.
Role play. Who wants to role play? I'm trying to take a vote.
I can role play.
Yeah.
I like role play.
Role play.
Mm-hmm.
Role play.
You understand what you're doing?
Mm-hmm.
Basically, somebody's gonna emotionally abuse you.
Yeah.
You can talk about your hair.
So what are you confused about? Are you confused about what emotional abuse is or the actual activities?
Yeah, I could be.
No, I think I understand the thing here,
Mm-hmm.
but then to role play, which means you are going to come up with a scenario, right?
Okay.
I don't
I
know
can
what scenario I would come up with.
come up with a scenario right now.
Now,
So-
he might think he's emotionally abusing me,
well,
but it depends on how he take it.
yeah.
It may
Not
become physically,
necessarily.
Well, if I don't take it as emotional abuse, I don't see it as emotional abuse.
That is a good thing. However, that does not make it less emotional abuse. If somebody have sex with you and you didn't want it, but you don't see it as rape, does that make it less rape?
Or if somebody has sex with me and they don't want it, it's rape.
So
It's the different. The action is different to.
exactly. So he's still
Yeah.
invading your space.
Yeah,
He's
abusing
still
you.
abusing you. But whether you see it as that's on you. But that does not negate his actions
It
that
doesn't
he's
stop
doing.
it from being verbal abuse, emotional abuse.
Emotional abuse.
Okay. I'm
So-
still confused because as long
Alright,
as it's not
alright,
affecting me.
All right. For instance, now I went from work before you.
It may not affect you.
I'm sitting, I'm watching TV. You know, come home. I tell you, you're gonna cook.
Pot across.
Huh?
My answer gonna be.
You gonna cook? I tell you.
You want one? Correct. That gonna be my answer.
Listen, let me put my foot down in here. Go and cook. And don't the food taste bad, it's not my taste too. Or is he gonna sleep outside?
And my answer gonna be wait for it.
Huh?
I would identify that as emotional abuse.
Yeah.
Because
I am
for her, it might be like that, but
well,
there are some people who
well,
who
no,
would-
we put it over like this.
Right.
Yeah.
Yes.
Mhm.
I know could identify as emotional abuse, but it really didn't affect
Or-
me.
or
It may not.
I wouldn't let it
you.
affect me negatively then, I should say.
Right. And how long would you put up for that? Would you, constantly let him berate you and do that?
He would realize eventually he berated me and nothing's happening. So he would stop.
That's bullying, though.
Yeah, and then it turns
He's
into
bullying you.
But it comes
you
down- it
emotionally
comes down-
abusing
Then-
him.
Then I could see then where emotional abuse can force someone now to get physical.
Yeah.
Because I'm not reacting the way he wants me to react.
Exactly.
You
But-
know, slap.
it could be something as even a lot milder. It could be like, here, dude, you don't look pretty at all.
Like, he ain't got no calf muscles. I don't know why he won't ever grow no calf
You see?
muscles. So,
Make me feel sad about my calf muscles.
Well, he got me
He
something
abused me
to
every
say.
day.
mhm.
But it is abuse. It's funny, and then I think the repetition of it. if
Repetition
it's
over
over
yeah,
and over, somebody saying that's the same hurtful things to you over and over. They're not really trying to help you. They're trying
Correct.
to bring you down.
Beat
Versus
you down.
somebody giving you a critique saying, "Oh, your style don't really match your face." I don't mean that.
However, like,
You
as
know what I'm
she's
saying? That would be me just telling you, it just don't match your face. It looks nice, but it don't match.
But
Versus me saying it over and over,
Over.
and over.
But I guess, like, yeah.
Yeah,
Some
emotionally
certain
beating it
people
in.
can tell me certain things. I will accept certain things from certain people. It depends on who the person is. So I guess coming from someone else, I may take it as an offense. Say offensive. If Narissa tells me something, I say, yeah, I know Narissa, you know that what she means. True. I trust she judgment, whatever. If Bradley tell me saying, yeah, trust your judgment, he can do that. But then another person like
But then
tell
again,
me not
a
to. You
lot,
understand?
but a lot of the times,
So then-
those who emotionally abuse us, well, normally do it is people that are close to us.
Correct.
So a lot of the times we do not even see it
You play it off
right as
abuse.
emotional abuse. It's only after a period of time, they're constantly
Starts
doing
affecting
it.
you.
Then it starts right. You know,
Plus
like
it also, I think also it deals with the person's being emotionally abused mindset too.
Yeah.
Because you're already mean as shit. So you're not gonna put up with Trevor's shit.
Stop.
So plain and simple, you're not gonna put up with it. But the moment that you like my mom went through a situation like this, my grandmother died. My brother was emotionally abusing her by telling her she wasn't worth shit. My aunt was emotionally abusing her stuff, and she contemplated on killing herself. I watched her go into a depression. So, but it was the people that
It's right there.
her sister, her oldest sister, her son, and then and along with credit card companies, that they kept calling and breaking her down, and they had threatened to take her house or whatever, and all that. So all that stuff built up emotionally. So she went into what's called depression. Not to mention, her medical doctor just kept prescribing her with every damn thing. So he just kept pushing the pills. So that in turn messed up her health via chemical wise, and then she's
Just a
doing
cycle.
Yeah, just
Yes.
a vicious cycle.
So
of all
it
that.
started with a simple, verbal abuse that was not identified by anybody, and then just continued on until it
Broke her
went
down.
to something.
Cause I never knew it. Never saw it until I saw her in shock in a chair. I didn't know what was wrong with her. So it's things like that. But she didn't have the mindset that you had. Cause you're not gonna take that.
And I find like emotional abusers, it's like they know. Like
Who-
they
who-
know
who they
you know,
can and can't
yeah.
get away with.
It's like they search out for these people. Oh, okay, I can control you.
And some of it is not even that, and some of it is they begin to isolate you. They be like, because we get so wrapped up in other people, our lovers, or even our kids, and sometimes it's just I'm in this position of authority over you, and you got to do what I say, and if you don't do it, these are the consequences.
Yeah.
in military.
So,
In military.
The military
There are
is a very
some leaders-
emotionally abused.
there are some leaders in the military that does that, but you can find them in almost any company.
Yes.
Any organization, for those who don't know how to communicate, who's trying to get people, to do stuff, people in a position of authority who's seeking power and control over somebody else. So you're absolutely right. What would it look like, in an adult child
That's
situation?
what I was
Yeah.
gonna add. Just about to say, what about like when your kids? You're a parent,
Mhm.
but yet you're trying to discipline them and keep them from doing something. But the words
So how
that
do
you
you-
say,
How do you
That's
how
what
do
I'm
you
saying.
get that fine line? Based off everything that we've talked about.
With kids, I think it is very important because, with kids, there's a big difference between disciplining that child and letting them know what you have done wrong, right? Identifying what they have done wrong,
Man,
than rather
talk to them.
right, talk to them, than rather say, oh, you're stupid. No, right, no, that's a big difference. And sometimes I find that, especially we in the Caribbean, we do that a lot. We
No,
go
I hear
for
it.
the
Yeah.
oh, you stupid, or you're just like your
'Cause
mother
I hear
or
it
your
in the
father or
morning.
one of the
Your
kids.
father.
Right,
You're just like
Right.
your father.
right. Especially that one, yeah. Right? So we do that a lot. Other than explaining why you're being disciplined, let them know why they're being disciplined.
Exactly.
Right.
And what
My
about
dad did that.
what about location and time? Does that matter?
Yes.
Yes.
We don't embarrass them.
Yeah.
What about amongst friendships or coworkers or
You still pull them to the side.
Bradley always abusing me on a daily basis.
In the enclosure of his office.
how would you identify it? If your friend was trying to emotionally abuse you.
I think somebody from the outside would have to tell you that.
Yeah.
Because like she said, she would take it
From certain people.
certain people a certain way, but it still might be verbal abuse, but
Correct.
she doesn't recognize it as that. So it have to
Because
be
she
somebody on the outside that says, you know, they say that all the time, for them to like think about it. And
Yeah.
I think it would be hard for somebody who is being emotionally abused to identify
That their
that
friend,
they're
that
friends
someone
or-
they trust.
Yeah.
Yes. Until somebody points it out. Yeah.
Sounds like y'all got it. Y'all have any questions?
Is it over? It's not over yet, is it?
No. Let's
Okay.
talk about the conclusion.
I see.
Emotional abuse is just as harmful as physical abuse. Probably even worse, depending on the situation. Emotional abuse leads to, unsure about yourself, reality gone, depression, PTSD, all that stuff. Emotional abusers, abusers in general use, tactics of control and power. What else have you learned from this lesson?
You can trust anybody. Anybody, best friend, family, people you don't know can emotionally abuse you, even yourself.
And you can be emotionally abused before even knowing that you are
A good
abused.
example is like for me and myself, it take me a long time, but I used to beat myself up for not passing a test or not accomplishing something. I'd always tell myself,
Call yourself you're dumb,
I'm worse than
incompetent.
that. Yeah.
That's a great point.
Didn't have a lot of courage or confidence in myself.
That's a great point. Do y'all feel more confident about identifying emotional abuse in different relationships?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes, we do.
Yes.
Well,
I can't wait to get home and tell my son stop emotionally abusing.
today I told you to save a life,
Take care.
and maybe your own, by
Well,
teaching you how to identify emotional abuse.
mine physically abused.
Thank you for attending. It's greatly appreciated.
Thank you.
Thank you.